Hey everybody, welcome back. We are watching Good Witch, not The Good Witch, but Good Witch, Season 5, Episode 5. We'll see if I have much to talk about, see if I have any stories or anything, as the reaction itself is pretty tame, which makes sense. It's a kids, well, not a kids, but a youth show. So let's see what this episode brings us in Middleton. Yeah, Middleton is the town. I'll get everything straight eventually.
You ready, Martha?
For my close-up? Always.
I get nervous when the camera's on, as you guys have learned as you've watched, or if you've watched any previous videos.
Oh,
That would be me.
I,
Martha? You okay?
I,
Serves her right.
No, but I thought that we were making this long distance thing work.
The longest distance I've had is about 40 minutes away. I can't do much past that. Imagination gets away with you. I have a really hard time with breakups because I tend to go headfirst into the relationship. So I haven't had very many relationships, but the ones I've had have been really rough when we've broken up. So, well, the the one was not so rough, but the other ones have been. So, yeah, it's one of those things where when you wear your heart on your sleeve and give everything to a relationship and just to see it fall apart, it's rough. And my stubbornness doesn't help.
They moved it up at the last minute.
Who moves a fundraiser at the last minute?
Mayor Davenport.
Of course.
What's up, Nick?
I have a feeling she and Mayor Davenport are going to be a thing.
Freshman year.
Let the texting begin. The picture's gone. So either this is a dream
I'm great.
or something else happened.
Why dwell in the past?
It's been going on about 6 months.
Coming home shouldn't add to your stress.
I gotta get this vineyard sold, and then I can calm down.
Well, if you don't, the next one may
He
be
owes
ours.
money somewhere. So ghost hunting. I like the concept of it. I think it's interesting. I think there's usually an explanation. I remember I was with a friend of mine, elementary school. She's passed away now, but we went to Raleigh, North Carolina, to the state fair and stayed with a friend of hers or a friend of her family's that it was an old mansion, I think. I remember the word mansion somewhere in there. I don't remember what the house looked like or anything like that. But I do remember being scared that night because I thought I saw a face. And this is back in the day when Tales from the Crypt and all that was popular. Might not have been elementary school. Might have been young high school, junior high maybe. Um, but it was, I remember not sleeping well because I thought I kept seeing a face. And then the next morning, all it was I believe it was a chair that had a face on it. One of those decorative chairs. Something like that at least. So I felt a little silly after that. But I do like horror movies and I I used to watch Ghost Adventures all the time, and then they got popular, and then I didn't like them as much. But Ghost Adventure, I never liked. I might be mixing them up. There's one of those shows where the guys talk all the time. It's like, dudes, quit talking. Um, that one I didn't like. But Ghost Hunters, I did like. Ghost Adventures was the ones with the guys that talked all the time, wasn't it? Yeah, didn't care for that. And then you had, forget the name of that one, but the one that not only did they do the ghost hunting part of it, but they also had the psychic that would tell you any impressions they got as they were going through. And, when crossing, I wasn't expecting to try to name these shows. Crossing Over with, is it John Edwards? I really liked him, but then there's other ones that I didn't really care for. So, I'm a little finicky with it. Do I believe in it? I won't say it doesn't exist, but I also can't say it does exist. There's usually an explanation, like cat noises. I've always been fascinated by ghosts and ghost stories and hauntings and that type of thing. The neighbors are starting to get loud. All right, back to the show.
Oh, the swing.
Dad used to push
Looks
us on
like
this
new
when we were
rope.
kids.
Speaking of New York, another story. So, trying to think of how old we were. I was in high school, maybe my sophomore year of high school. My scout troop went to New York and to see, I think it was the Easter show, the Rockettes at Rockefeller Center for the Easter show, I believe. We also saw the Liberty Bell and in Philly. And I was trying to think, I can't remember what else we did, but I remember being on the bus and you look out the bus and you see all sorts of folks. And I remember that being the first time I had seen a homeless person. They were sleeping on the grates, and that's when I learned that they do that to stay warm because of the warm air coming out from under the vents. I also remember we had lunch at one of those split restaurants, fast food restaurants. Can't remember. It was McDonald's and Burger King, maybe something like that. We were in there eating, and at the other section was a group of men that were all dressed the same, and I think we decided that they sold the fake Rolexes and that sort of thing because they all had briefcases too and that sort of stuff. It may not have been true. We might have been making that up, but it just seemed odd because they were all dressed the same, all had briefcases, and they were all similar looking as well. And I also remember a guy running. I think he ran both ways, but definitely ran one way past the windows. Had a one of those big boxes that probably was about 3.5, 4 feet high, somewhere in there. And they were full of T-shirts because we saw them when we went into the restaurant to eat. And we saw him go running one way down the street. And that's when I learned that they may not have permits or whatever he's selling may not be legal, that kind of stuff. So it was quite an impressionable trip. Those are the two things I remember. I remember seeing the Rockettes as well. I don't remember any of the songs or anything like that. I just remember seeing them. And we were towards the back of the theater. But it 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 was my first what I called city trip. I'd been to other cities, but you never really see the underbelly of the city, and that wasn't the underbelly. That was just at that time, that was as underbelly as I had gotten. So it was quite interesting. That was during the 80s that we had gone up to New York to see the Rockettes. So it was an interesting trip. But I am not a city girl. I love the country. I don't even like going to Appalachian State. I don't like driving there, and that's not a city. It's like a large town, but I do not like driving in that traffic. I do not like going to Winston-Salem. I don't like going to Charlotte. I can barely, well, no, I can deal with going to Withville, but there's, I don't like traffic. I have never liked it. So I'm a country girl. So that was episode 5 of season 5. It looks like we've got some hookups happening or being delayed. Wonder if the only reason why they had Grace fast forward time with her breakup was to have her cooking muffins instead of having, forget her name. Totally forget her name now. I know Cassie. Instead of having Cassie making cupcakes, having Grace make them. But not much to say on the episode itself. It's a good episode. It's true about not trying to force oneself through the grieving period. No matter what the grief is, you got to go through it in order to heal, which sounds weird. And everybody goes at it their own pace and their own way. And so it's hard to deal with people telling you how to deal with it, although they didn't really have that in this episode, other than to say you need to feel the pain. So, yeah, not much to say on it. But we will be watching episode 6 soon. So, join me.